shocked.
Welcome back, Crackle Addicts. I'm Lupinefiasco. This is Daily FaB Gameplay, and today we are playing Aurora Shooting Star. For anyone who is new to the channel, what we do here is review replays of games I played on the Talishar.net client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my games. I will talk through turn cycles as if I were taking them now, explaining my thought processes for the lines I would take, and compare that to the lines I did take. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future, taking down paper events, and walking away with that shiny cardboard. If you would like to check out the deck I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. If you'd like to engage further, there is a link to my Discord and to my Patreon. Without further ado, let's jump right into the action. I try not to bring too many wins to these gameplay reviews because frankly they are less interesting than the games that I lose. I feel like there's generally less to learn from them, but this was a pretty interesting game with a few decision points to make that I think could have been optimized, and a few of them even led me to some general rules of thumb that I internalized based on this game, and I think maybe you could learn from as well. So we won the die roll against Viserai. We chose to go first. It isn't that Aurora wants to go first, and especially if this is an aggro matchup, we would prefer to go second. The issue is that Viserai really benefits from going first with Grasp of the Arknight, Malefic Incantations, and just the setup that he can do. And we want to deny that setup. Aurora is better going second in the aggro races, but she can set up on turn 0. And if nothing else, she is denying Viserai that setup opportunity. Now, sometimes you draw a hand like this, and for as much as people accuse Aurora as being this uber consistent 0 for 4 dot deck, it's pretty rare that she draws a hand that is just a 4-card 16 without any kind of setup. This is the rare instance where we did draw into the 4-card 16 with no setup, and as much as I generally don't like to let my opponents filter on turn 0, if I think I can just push damage and even get a card for Arsenal from Snatch, I'm going to do it. So this is a hand where we just send it. We're going to play Entwine Lightning, fuse it with Second Strike, and then play Ravenous Rabble, and we're expecting that at least one of those is going to hit. In doing so, it will activate Second Strike. Second Strike becomes 0 for 4 with Go Again, and then we get to end with Snatch. So either Viserai is going to take a bunch of damage and hold cards which he can use to block the Snatch, or Viserai is going to use cards to block our early attacks and then get hit by Snatch. Or Viserai gives us armor, and if this is giving us early armor, that's great for us too. So we are just going to send this entire hand. Now there's a world where Viserai has Haunting Rendition and can block Entwine Lightning for 4 and then block Rabble for 4, and now our turn looks worse. But based on Viserai's equipment, which tells me that he is going to play an aggro style of game, and just the unlikelihood that a defensive Vis would have multiple 4 blocks in hand, we're just going to go for it. Now if this did block 4 and 4, we could just Arsenal Snatch and move along, pass it back to this, and just feel bad that we didn't quite get there. But with a hand like this, we are just going to go for it. This does take 1 from the Rabble, which does turn on Second Strike. This is going to block the Second Strike as well, so now we will just send Snatch. Either this gives us Face Purg, Ironweave, and Creepers, or he takes 4 and we draw a card. We know that it's a Sigil of Suffering, which is great for the Arsenal anyway. This was really the Aurora dream. This is the turn 0 high roll, where we push 6 damage over the top of blocks, get a card for Arsenal, and the card for our Arsenal is good. The hand that we draw into is kind of fine. It does stuff, but as far as defensive output, we're looking at a 4-card 12 at max, and that is just E-Strike Go Again, E-Strike 7. The Sigil of Suffering in Arsenal does nothing for us offensively. Defensively, we can think about playing it. That would free up our Arsenal, which I kind of like a little more. But we don't need to decide anything now. This playing a Runic Reckoning, having to hardcast it with no rune chance on the board. We've got a Snuff Out coming in for 8. This does have a rune chant that will allow him to pay for the Snuff Out cost, to discard, and then we'll discard a card from hand. I really don't want to do that. So we have a few blocking options. We could block with E-Strike, Burn Up, and Dyadic Carapace to cover that 8. And now our turn is just E-Strike for 7, bottoming Discharge, and we keep our Sigil of Suffering in Arsenal. Our other line would be block with Dyadic Carapace, E-Strike, and Sigil of Suffering, which covers 8, even if this pays for the Arcane Barrier. Then we send E-Strike for 7, bottoming Discharge, and arsenaling Burn Up. And what I like about that second line is that the Burn Up either goes in our arsenal and sets up a 5-card hand where we're pushing the Burn Up effect, or this blocks with Face Purgatory, and we get to play Shock as an instant to deal 1 point of damage. We also will have successfully gotten Face Purgatory off the board on turn 2, which is going to make all of our future turns much better and make all of our future decision making much easier. So I like keeping the Burn Up in hand to either set up that arsenal or bait this into using Face Purgatory, which means that I am going to block with E-Strike, Carapace, and Sigil of Suffering from Arsenal. As far as blocking with Carapace or Grasp, it kind of doesn't matter. I don't mind keeping Carapace for around for as long as I can. There are weird instances where you will break Lightning Greaves before your Carapace is broken, and now that AP2 is sometimes relevant in a situation where you do need to just survive a turn and maybe you have an extra blue. But for the most part, it really doesn't matter. Viserai doesn't do anything that can affect the remaining block value of your armor. They don't have a scramble pulse that would say your armor blocks for 1 less this turn and you've already blocked with Carapace, so now it gets destroyed by the temper. There's no real gotcha effect that Viserai has available to him. We are going to send the E-Strike for 7, just waiting to see what Viserai is going to block with. The Burn Up Shock is not as good of bait for Viserai as something like a Lightning Press or a Sigil of Solace would be. Notably, Sigil of Solace in this situation is very bad because we're ahead on life. Viserai has Reaping Blade and Sigil would gain us no life, but if we had a Lightning Press here, that would be incredible value. But as it is, we are denying the benefit of Face Purgatory for this. We don't discard. In fact, we are threatening 1 point of arcane damage. The more impactful part of this play is that Face Purgatory is off of the board by turn 2. This isn't going to be a long game. I would be surprised if it went past turn 6, but that means that we have 4 turns where we do not need to worry about Face Purgatory. That doesn't matter with this hand, which sucks a lot. This hand really does not do much. Our best line here is going to be to play Warmongers on our turn and Arsenal Lightning Press, which means that I am hopefully blocking with Current Funnel, somersaulting it back to hand, and then either blocking with it a second time, or I can pitch it to Aurora to make an Embodiment of Lightning, which will then stay on our turn because we aren't playing an attack, we're just playing Warmongers. We get to Arsenal a Lightning Press, and we are set up for whatever the next turn is. Viserai hardcasting Succumb to Temptation is a really good sign for us. We've got a Rune Flash coming in for 4 with Go Again. It does have that on hit of Succumb, which means that we are going to block this. We're going to give our Lightning Greaves and our Current Funnel. I want to make sure that I get my block value from Lightning Greaves before I potentially break it on a future turn. And we're going to somersault the Current Funnel back to hand. Now, whether we block with the Current Funnel or pitch it to Aurora depends heavily on what Viserai's follow-up to the Rune Flash is. If it's something like Rune Rager Swarm or Swarming Gloomveil, we're going to want to block that with the current funnel. If it is just Reaping Blade for 3 and the 1 Rune Chant, then we will pitch current funnel to Aurora. Reaping Blade does not work with Succumb to Temptation, so we don't need to block this 3. And considering that we have a Lightning Press and we are not going to be able to burn resources with Grasp of the Arknight through Warmonger's Diplomacy, I really prefer making the embodiment here. Just in case we draw into a hand with no natural go again, we will have a lot easier of a time actually converting that offensively than we would if we did not have the embodiment. Just waiting on Viserai to decide on War or Peace. This is the ideal setup to play Warmongers, where Viserai has nothing on board. No Malefic Incantation, no Rune Chants. It is going to be very difficult for Viserai to convert 5 cards here. Viserai does choose War. Playing Rune Flash for 4 go again. Let's take a look at our hand. For one thing, this hand doesn't block very well. We only have 2 cards that actually do block, and we need one of them because we need an attack for our Discharge and our Lightning Press. So we're definitely going to keep one of these. It's probably Second Strike. Could we block with Heaven's Claws, or would we prefer to use it for pitch? We want to pitch it. We want to pitch it for Starfall. We want to make another embodiment of Lightning. We want to have something to bottom to channel Lightning Valley. What I am thinking I want to do with this hand is pitch Heaven's Claws to attack with Starfall, play channel Lightning Valley, hit for 2, draw a card, and then decide how I want the rest of my turn to look based on what I drew. I would like to play Second Strike at some point between Discharge or Lightning Press. I kind of want to play Lightning Press and Arsenal Discharge, but we can worry about what our turn looks like after Starfall Channel Lightning when we get there. For now, all we need to know is we do not want to block with Second Strike or Heaven's Claws, or at least we don't need to block Rune Flash. Under Warmongers, Viserai can't play Succumb to Temptation if he's chosen War. There is no disruption that this can do without the ability to play non-attack actions. So we'll just take 4 from this Rune Flash, and very likely take another 3 from Reaping Blade. It is the Reaping Blade. Very nice that Viserai was not able to do anything to make a Rune Chant, as he is just pitching that Swarming Gloomveil. So we're not going to block the Reaping Blade, and our turn is going to start with Starfall. We do not need to play the Channel Lightning Valley until reactions. Viserai declares no blocks. Here is where we will play that Channel Lightning. Hit for 2, see what we draw. It is a Sigil of Solace. We really want to play that this turn because we are currently below Viserai on life, and assuming that Vis takes damage from the Second Strike, we are unlikely to be behind on life total. So what I want the rest of my turn to look like is play Second Strike, play Lightning Press, play Sigil of Solace, and then hit Viserai for 7, make an embodiment of Lightning, Arsenal Discharge. The reason I want to Arsenal Discharge instead of Lightning Press is that I haven't seen a Gone in a Flash yet, and if I have Embodiment Discharge, draw Gone in a Flash, then I get to attack for 4, play Discharge, put Gone in a Flash back in my hand, and then play the rest of my turn. Discharge value goes way up compared to Lightning Press, which does not. I choose to play the Discharge instead. Again, I disagree with that line, but I do understand why I would make that choice. We have a Channel Lightning Valley on the field. Lightning Press works better with Channel Lightning Valley than Electrostatic Discharge does because it is not telegraphed. If we played Discharge and then Lightning Surge from hand, or just any of our 0 for 4s, Viserai knows that he needs to block 7, rather than blocking 4, and then we get over the top with Lightning Press. So there are benefits to both. I just think that since I haven't seen a Gone in a Flash yet, I would like to prepare for the possibility of drawing one, and of course the top card of our deck was Gone in a Flash. So We also have a Snatch. The Lightning Press is going to be very nice on this turn, but you can see we immediately get punished for not arsenaling Discharge. The hand we draw into is very good. The Arc Lightning isn't necessary to get our turn started because we have an Embodiment of Lightning. So what I might want to do with this hand is lead with Snatch, play Lightning Press, somersault the Snatch back to hand. We hit for 7, we draw 2 cards, and then we can evaluate whether we want to play the Arc Lightning. I don't like leading with the Arc Lightning just because we already have the Go Again, and the other card in our hand, the other attack, does not have natural Go Again. So based on what we draw, maybe we draw another Discharge, and now having Arc Lightning give Go Again to Gone in a Flash becomes much better, where we would not be able to pull off that play if we led with Arc Lightning. We lose a point of damage from the Arc Lightning effect because we are not taking advantage of Snatch having Go Again, but we are giving Go Again to the Gone in a Flash instead. Looking at a Snuff Out for, this will be 5. We're going to take 2 arcane damage. Viserai is going to make 4 rune chants from Malefic Incantation and Viserai's effect. He has 2 floating resources, but currently no action point. Spellbound Creepers could get around that. The issue with that is Viserai, to my knowledge, doesn't play any effects, any non-attack actions that target the current attack, which makes sense because for the most part that would not work. And to my knowledge, Viserai doesn't play any attack reactions. There's no Razor Reflex, there's no Runeblade Lightning Press. So we can take 2 rune chant damage here, and then we only need to block 5 because we need to make sure the Snuff Out doesn't hit, but we don't need to play around any sort of pump effects. So we have 2 defensive options. We can either block with Crown of Providence, Dyadic Carapace, and Grasp of the Arknight. We would not use the Crown effect because our hand is awesome. Or we can block with Snatch, Gone in a Flash, and then somersault them both back to hand. It's really an interesting choice. If Snatch was Lightning Surge, or any 0 for 4 that doesn't draw a card, then I am a lot more incentivized to block with it, Gone in a Flash, and then somersault them back to hand. But because Snatch does draw a card on hit, what I really want to do is play Snatch, Lightning Press it, somersault it back to hand, then play Arc Lightning so I can give the Snatch Go Again. We would have also drawn 2 more cards from the Snatch hitting, which maybe informs the rest of our turn, but that's just a really good way to open, and I want to be able to Snatch multiple times, especially when I can give it Go Again both times. So while I don't love using my armor this early, I mean, this is the rest of our armor. We've only seen 2 Snuff Outs, but there is a 3rd copy in Viserai's deck, presumably. There are more copies of Succumb to Temptation, and having the armor to play around Succumb is really nice, but this hand is incredible. I mean, even just on its face, we get to play Snatch, make it 7, somersault it back to hand, play Arc Lightning, play Snatch, play Gone in a Flash. So on its face, this is a 7, 9, 13, 17 damage hand. Maybe more than that. 7, 9, 13, no, it's a 17 damage hand that threatens 2 on-hit card draw effects with a 3rd piece of card draw from Channel Lightning Valley, and we even get to throw 3 more damage on top of it with Press that basically guarantees the Snatch hits. So I really want to keep Somersault. I really would prefer to give all of my armor, go shields down, with the knowledge that we are threatening 20 damage and 3 more cards on top of it, which will absolutely be threatening lethal this turn, and I don't know that we can threaten lethal without Somersault. It's a 5-card 20. I forgot the Lightning Press. It's a 4-card 17. So I would like to give armor here. If I am making this decision now, we are definitely blocking with armor, but definitely worth considering that we can save the rest of our armor to bail us out of 3rd Snuff Out, second or third copy of Succumb to Temptation, or even just getting block value on a turn where we do not have a 5-block electromagnetic somersault in hand. Maybe we only have 1 attack and 3 instants, and we really need to block some damage, while also making sure that we can do something on our next turn. So I don't condone this play. I would not make this play now, but I do understand why I'm doing it, with the knowledge that I still have a really good turn. I still get to play Snatch for 7, draw 2 cards, and then figure out what I'm doing with the rest of my turn. So we Snatch for 4. We're really hoping that Viserai is going to give us a card from hand, 3-block, and either Ironweave. If Viserai doesn't, we are still going to Lightning Press this Snatch. I suppose we don't have to, but I do want to. There is a world where we are not playing Arc Lightning. It's a long shot, but it could happen. And if we don't play Arc Lightning, then we would not have played a Lightning card yet. So our Starfall and Aurora abilities are not on. Lightning Press fixes that. So even if Viserai doesn't block, I am going to Lightning Press this, just to make sure that I've played a Lightning card if I decide not to play Arc Lightning. We draw into 2 incredible cards, another Snatch and another Arc Lightning, and you can really see, like, wow, imagine that we had somersaulted that first Snatch back to hand, and we have these 4 cards plus another Snatch, and we get to Arc Lightning Snatch, gone in a flash. We're so incredibly ahead. That said, this hand is still very good. So let's think about what we want to do with this. The obvious line is play Arc Lightning, play Snatch, play Gone in a Flash, Arsenal, Arc Lightning, pass. Arc Lightning deals 2 damage, Snatch and Gone in a Flash threaten 8. Viserai didn't block the first Snatch, maybe he doesn't block the second one either. If we draw another card, then we can, at the very least, work in Starfall for 2 damage plus 1 from Arc Lightning. If we draw a blue, we get to Grasp as well. We have a lot of possibilities. But here is a second line that I want to propose, which is that we pitch an Arc Lightning into Aurora to make an embodiment of Lightning, and then we play Snatch. It is less damage, because even if we just play Arc Lightning, Snatch, Gone in a Flash, the Arc Lightning is worth 2 damage, and we get the same benefit that we would as if we had made an embodiment of Lightning. But here is why I think pitching Arc Lightning to make an embodiment is a stronger play, because we have Channel Lightning Valley out, and Channel Lightning already has a flow counter on it. We need to pitch 2 Lightning cards in order to keep Channel Lightning Valley around. We give up 2 damage by not playing the Arc Lightning, but we have now pitched a Lightning card, and say we draw another 0 for 4, we could then pitch Gone in a Flash to attack with Starfall, and that puts a second Lightning card into our pitch zone, attack with our 0 for 4, get a good amount of damage, and then Arsenal Arc Lightning while keeping Channel Lightning Valley around. And keeping Channel Lightning around for a 3rd turn is really strong. We still have burn-ups in our deck, we still have 2 Sigil of Sufferings. I really like keeping Channel on the table, and the best way to facilitate that play is to pitch the second Arc Lightning rather than playing it, because if we play it and then we play Snatch, the only way that we're keeping Channel Lightning Valley on the table is if we pitch Gone in a Flash and Arc Lightning. I don't want to do that. I want to have something to put into my arsenal, basically guaranteed. I agree with that play in the past. We're going to send Snatch for 4 with Go again, hoping that since Viserai took the first one, he takes the second one as well. That does seem to be the case, but Viserai does have Sigil of Suffering that he would not have played following the Lightning Press on the first Snatch. So we did get punished for not holding that Lightning Press. If we had held it, Viserai would have played the Sigil of Suffering. We could have taken the Point of Arcane and then pressed over the top of blocks. But even so, the only reason that we even got to make this play of pitching Arc Lightning and setting us up to keep Channel Lightning around is because we played a lightning card. The lightning press turned on Aurora. So now we have a decision to make. I want to pitch to AB because I want Citadel of Suffering to block for 3. We hit with the snatch, we draw a card. The question is, what are we pitching? We can pitch either one of these because we already have one lightning card in our pitch zone. Either one of these will let us keep Channel Lightning around for a second turn. If we pitch Arc Lightning at a minimum, we get to then Starfall, Gone in a Flash. Whatever's on top of our deck, maybe we play it or it goes into Arsenal, but with the information we have, we know that we are getting 6 more damage out of this turn if we pitch Arc Lightning. Or we pitch Gone in a Flash, and if we pitch Gone in a Flash, then we are very reliant on whatever the top card of our deck is. If the top card of our deck is another 0 for 4, we just attack with it and then Arsenal Arc Lightning. If it is an instant, say it's Lightning Press or Electrostatic Discharge, or in this case Sigil of Solace when we're ahead on life, then it is 2 points of damage. We just pitch it, attack with Starfall, Arsenal Arc Lightning, and say done. So we are potentially losing 4 points of damage if we pitch Gone in a Flash rather than Arc Lightning. There is a chance that we just rip a 0 for 4 and we only lose 2 damage, but we get to keep an Arc Lightning. And I think the fact that we get to keep an Arc Lightning is worth potentially losing 4 damage. I would rather deal 4 less damage this turn and have an Arc Lightning in Arsenal than potentially deal 4 more damage but have it Gone in a Flash, because we don't have an embodiment of lightning. Gone in a Flash doesn't have natural go again. Say we just draw 4 more attacks without natural go again or a way to give them go again, our turn kind of sucks. So having the Arc Lightning to set up, also when we have a Channel Lightning value on the table, is worth it to me. So if I'm making this call now, then I am pitching Gone in a Flash to Sigil, to the Arcane Barrier to make sure that Sigil doesn't connect, hoping to draw a 0 for 4 off the top of my deck, or maybe even just a blue, and then I'm arsenaling Arc Lightning. Snatch does connect, we draw a 0 for 4, and while we are going to get 7 more damage this turn from Starfall, then Fused Arcanic Shockwave, we are going to arsenal this Gone in a Flash, and again, I am still in the camp where I would have happily given up 3 damage this turn to make sure that I have an Arc Lightning, to make sure that I have something to do on my turn. And you can see from this hand here, this hand doesn't function. We have no way to give any of our attacks go again. Now, if we had an Arc Lightning in Arsenal, then this hand is really good, right? We play Arc Lightning, we play Gone in a Flash, we attack with Starfall, we make a Rune Chant with Grasp of the Arknight. At some point in there, we've drawn from Channel Lightning Valley, we get to play Warmonger's Diplomacy, and then arsenal a Sigil of Suffering. Not necessarily in that order, but we have a very good turn. And instead, we are going to lose a lot of tempo because we just can't do anything with this hand. Now that being said, we can play defense, and the question is, what are we doing with this hand, considering that we have a Gone in a Flash in Arsenal and a Warmonger's Diplomacy in our hand? I would like to keep my Gone in a Flash in Arsenal and play Warmonger's Diplomacy, which means that I would like to use the other 3 cards in my hand defensively. And the best way to do that is probably going to be blocking with Gone in a Flash and Sigil, and then pitching Heaven's Claws to Arcane Barrier. Viserai has 6 Rune Chants on the table. We don't need to pitch to AB now. We are going to have the opportunity to pitch later, so as far as the Sonata Arcanics damage, we can just take the 1. Viserai dealing 1 point of Arcane does not enable him to do anything at the start of his turn that he wouldn't be able to do in the middle of it for the same value. So it isn't like we are giving Vis the opportunity to get us by letting him deal 1 with the Sonata Arcanics. He's going to get us with a Rune Chant, and that's going to let him play Succumb or whatever. Viserai just accidentally passing through the turn. Of course, we're going to let him undo it. Vis taking the Rune Ranger Swarm with Sonata Arcanics, we're going to take that arcane damage, and then we get to decide how do we want to interact with this. Again, we can decide later in the turn if we want to pitch to Arcane Barrier. Because Viserai is going to have 4 rune chants behind this Rune Rager Swarm, 2 from Malefic, 2 from his own ability. We can take 6 here, go to 22. Then we've got the Rune Rager Swarm to figure out. We also have a line where we block with Crown of Providence and cycle Gone and Flash out of our arsenal as an attempt to draw something with Go Again, draw an instant that lets us actually do something with our turn to hold tempo. And I don't hate that line. I was talking about how Warmonger's Diplomacy is good or bad depending on Viserai's board situation, and the fact that Viserai will have Rune Chants and Malefic Incantation down tells me that he is set up to be able to play through a Warmonger's, and I kind of don't want to lose tempo, so I do think blocking with Crown here when we're already so far ahead is a pretty good decision. So I like taking all the Rune Chant damage, I like putting Crown of Providence in front of Rune Rager Swarm. Honestly, I would also block with Grasp of the Arknight just to play around a potential Succumb to Temptation. We have the Sigil of Suffering if we need to deal with any surprise damage from this, or surprise Succumb to Temptation, but again, Viserai doesn't really play pumps that work at reaction speed, so I do like making sure that we don't need to Sigil of Suffering here. We are going to sink our arsenal and try to draw into something better. Now, Sigil of Solace does drastically change what I want to do with my next turn because we still have Lightning Greaves. So now we have the opportunity to play Gone in a Flash, break Lightning Greaves, play Sigil of Solace, put Gone in a Flash back in hand, get our action point from the Sigils Go Again, and now we can convert some blues into Starfalls and Embodiments of Lightning. So we have some incoming damage. We've got 4 Rune Chants from this, followed by Rune Rager Swarm. That puts us down to 15, which is unfortunately still higher than 10. Reaping Blade is going to say that we don't draw with Sigil of Solace. But because we now have something to do with our turn, I don't want to block it all. I don't want to pitch to Arcane Barrier. I don't want to block the Rune Rager Swarm. We still have Sigil of Suffering in case Viserai has to come to Temptation, but now I'm just skipping all of the Rune Chant damage. I don't want to deal with any of this. I want to keep my hand because at a minimum I get to send 10, and that's just Gone in a Flash, Greaves, Starfall, Gone in a Flash. That isn't even counting the potential to make an embodiment or play our Warmonger's Diplomacy. That's just raw damage, and we're going to force Viserai to give us cards. Now, that being said, do we want to block with Sigil of Suffering? We don't need Sigil to have a turn, because what we get to do with our turn is play Gone in a Flash, break Greaves, play Sigil, pick up Gone in a Flash. We could make an embodiment, play Gone in a Flash again, and then play Warmonger's Diplomacy. We do 8 damage with a Warmonger's, and hopefully at some point in there we drew a card with Channel Lightning Valley, and that card can go into Starfall. So we're threatening lethal. We don't need Sigil of Suffering to do it. What is the downside of playing Sigil here? The downside of playing Sigil is if Viserai has a blue, he just pitches 1 to Arcane Barrier and then Reaping Blades us. Yeah, that is too bad, sucks to suck. But what if Viserai has a red and he wants to pitch it to Reaping Blade? Well, now he can't. He has to make a choice. He either pitches it to Reaping Blade, we shoot him for 1, we block the Rune Rager damage, and we draw a card from Channel Lightning Valley, or Viserai pitches the red to pay for the Arcane Barrier, can't Reaping Blade us, and Sigil of Suffering blocked for 6. It either gets 6 points of value, or it gets 8 points of value, and maybe Viserai has a blue, but that's fine, right? We make him have it. We should play Sigil of Suffering here. The other reason to play it is against Viserai specifically. He has Aether Ironweave, so maybe Viserai wants to arsenal this last card in hand, but wants to make sure he gets his damage. He just breaks Aether Ironweave, generates 2 resources, and attacks with Reaping Blade. And now Sigil of Suffering is not very good because Vis has a floating resource that he just can't use. So I really would like to play Sigil of Suffering here. And this is the lesson that I internalized from this game, This is the game that really taught me, just play the Sigil and make him have it, because this is the worst case scenario. Viserai makes 6 rune chants from the 7 rune chants even, from the Revel in Runeblood, breaks Ironweave, and attacks with Reaping Blade. So not only did Viserai get a ton of value from his last card in hand, but he also has a floating resource to pay for Arcane Barrier. So we get absolutely hosed, and we could have avoided so much of this by just playing the Sigil on the Rune Ranger Swarm. Either this pitches the Revel to pay for AB and loses out on 10 damage from playing Revel and attacking with Reaping Blade, or Viserai makes the same decision, takes 1, goes to 9, we draw a card, we don't take 3 from Rune Ranger Swarm, and then, sure, we are getting attacked for 12 damage overall, but that's fine. We have a 5th card in hand, we have 3 more life because we didn't get hit by Rune Ranger Swarm, we just have a lot more agency. So, play your Sigil of Suffering when your opponents only have 1 card in hand. Yeah, maybe it's a blue and they're fine, but maybe it's a red and you give them a real choice. So in this situation, what are we doing? We are staring down 9 rune chants followed by Reaping Blade for 3, so we're looking at 12 damage overall. Nothing has really changed. I still don't want to block or pitch with any of these cards. Sigil of Suffering now becomes much more interesting because it only blocks for 3. It will not draw us a card. Viserai has the resource for Arcane Barrier. So we're still looking at Gone in a Flash, Break Greaves, play Sigil, Embodiment, Gone in a Flash, Warmongers. But what Sigil of Suffering now lets us do is work a Starfall into that, guaranteed, if Viserai wants to start blocking. Or maybe we get to play the Heaven's Claws instead of pitching it, and that lets us get 3 more damage into the turn. If we want to pitch Warmongers, if it feels like Vis maybe can't block very well, we don't even need to worry about playing the Warmongers, we just pitch it and kill him. The other thing that taking all of this damage does for us is it puts us lower in life than Viserai, which means that our Sigil of Solace will draw. So what I like doing here is taking all of the rune chant damage. We go to 6. I think we then block the Reaping Blade with Dyadic Carapace, make sure we're getting our block value. We take 1 damage down to 5. Then we get to play Gone in a Flash. We don't need to worry about putting Viserai lower in life than we are, regardless of how he blocks, because the lowest we could put him with Gone in a Flash is 6, and we will still be at 5. So we will get our Sigil of Solace value. And so I like skipping all the rune chants, taking 9 arcane, we take 1 physical after blocking with Carapace, and then we get to play with 5 cards here, potentially with a 6th if we draw from Channel Lightning Valley. Let's see how I go about this in the past. Throw out the thinking, bear with me. I mean, if we block with Sigil, then we're still pushing 8 damage, very likely getting a draw, and we would not have to block with Carapace, so we go down to 6, and then we block out the Reaping Blade. We're still fine to attack with Gone in a Flash, let it hit, Viserai goes to 6, is tied with us on life, Sigil of Solace still gains his life through the Reaping Blade effect. I don't necessarily hate playing Sigil here. I would not fault anyone for playing Sigil here. I just feel that we have a better guaranteed turn by keeping Sigil for pitch than we do if we play it, and now we are very dependent on Viserai letting us deal damage. Viserai just blocks Gone in a Flash with Creepers and a 3-block, and we don't have something to really pay for a follow-up Starfall. There is a chance that we just don't draw, and I really want to draw. I'm really in a mode where I'm seeing red, Viserai is at 10, I can definitely threaten that, I'm going to go up to 8, and if I even work a Warmonger's Diplomacy into this turn, it is unlikely that Viserai can kill me before I can kill him. So we attack with the Gone in a Flash. What I would like to do, I mean, we can wait, right? The Gone in a Flash is going to draw us a card if it hits, and then we enter the resolution step. and we get to decide what we want to pitch into Lightning Greaves, but for right now, I am looking at pitching Sigil of Suffering, so that I get to pitch Heaven's Claws to work in a Starfall and an Embodiment to then play Warmonger's Diplomacy. I am not looking at pitching Heaven's Claws, because I want to leave the opportunity to attack with Heaven's Claws as well. Push 3 more damage this turn, and really force this to interact with us. Because as of now, if we're only threatening 10 damage, this could give us Spellbound Creepers and keep 4 cards in hand. I am hoping that Warmongers is going to incentivize him to, or would punish him for doing that. Feeling like there's no way that he could possibly convert 4 cards offensively through a Warmonger's Diplomacy, but, I have no way of knowing that. Keeping the Sigil to pitch the Lightning Greaves just lets me get a better guaranteed turn. Viserai says no blocks. Let's see what we draw from the Channel Lightning Valley. It's just another Sigil of Suffering, so goes down a little bit in value. Would have preferred to see another 0 for 4 that maybe lets us just kill Viserai. In this case, we are still going to pitch that Sigil of Suffering, and now we have a choice, because we could, instead of pitching Heaven's Claws to pay for our turn, we could pitch Warmonger's Diplomacy to attack with Starfall, make an Embodiment, attack with Heaven's Claws for 3 go again, and then attack with Gone in a Flash. So overall, we're threatening 13 damage, well, 9 now. Viserai has to give us either 2 cards from hand or a card from hand and creepers. We're at 8, Viserai only has 3 cards, but I do feel, honestly, I feel more threatened by 3-card Vis without Warmongers than I do by 4-card Vis with Warmongers. So what I like is Starfall, Embodiment, Gone in a Flash, play Warmonger's Arsenal Sigil of Suffering, and the Sigil even acts as some insurance in case Viserai puts a really good turn together. If he taps out, goes shields down, or even breaks Vex and Quill hand to put a bigger turn together, then we are in a position to kill him with Sigil. The other interesting thing about this line is that Warmongers potentially prompts this to choose War and just attack a bunch. Depending on his hand, maybe he gets to do something like Swarming Loomveil, Pitch Red for Reaping Blade, and Sigil is just lethal. If he chooses War, he is now incentivized to attack, which makes Sigil of Suffering better. If Viserai chooses Peace, Sigil will do nothing because Vis doesn't attack, or maybe Viserai attacks and just has an extraneous non-block in hand, which he would get to pitch to Sigil of Suffering. It's a really interesting interaction between Warmongers and Sigil here, where they potentially work very well together. Potentially they do absolutely nothing. So we will play the Warmonger's Diplomacy, expecting that this very likely cannot deal 8 points of damage with these 3 cards while under the effects of War or Peace. We get to Arsenal, our defense reaction. We are somewhat shields down now without our Lightning Greaves, but as I was saying, the benefit of keeping your Dianic Carapace around is it is an emergency button. Maybe we do pitch 2 reds to AB2 a rune chant that keeps us alive, and then we get to kill Viserai with Sigil of Suffering. If he's choosing Peace, just putting down 2 Malefic Incantations and making a rune chant, so we are potentially in trouble. Depending on whatever this card was that Viserai arsenal, maybe if we didn't choose, if we didn't play Warmonger's Diplomacy, maybe it is like Malefic, Pitch Red for Reaping Blade, and we kill him with Sigil. Impossible to know. The hand that we draw into is fine. We are ahead on life. Sigil of Solace will not gain us life, but at the very least, it does turn on Flittering Charge, so we get to Flittering for 4, play Sigil, pitch Lightning Surge to Starfall, and then play Lightning Surge. 4-card 10 is not very impressive by any means, but, in this situation, it is going to be enough to force Viserai to give us cards. Viserai needs to give us 1 card, at least 1 card to not die to Flittering Charge. If this gives us a 3-block, it goes down to 2. He needs to give us 1 card to not die to Starfall, and then he needs to give us 1 card to not die to Lightning Surge. So we are stripping at least 3 cards from Viserai here. And we still have our Sigil of Suffering in Arsenal, so very unlikely that we lose here. But we'll see what Vis can put together. Lightning Surge here is going to get 2 cards away from Vis. Vis, with 2 Malefic Incantations, a Rune Chant, a card in hand, and a card in Arsenal to kill us, and depending on how he sequences his turn, he may just be dead to the arcane damage from Sigil of Suffering. Alternatively, we just kill him with Burn Up. He would also be dead to Sigil of Suffering. The 3 Malefics would trigger, we take 1 point of Arcane down to 7, and then we play Sigil of Suffering, and Viserai still can't play for the AB. Pay for the AB, but the Burn Up is going to be enough to get us there. Let me see if we did see a blue in Viserai's arsenal, so in our previous Warmonger's turn, had we not played the Warmongers, Vis gets to play Malefic, pitch Amp for Reaping Blade, and still has 2 floating resources to pay for the Arcane Barrier, so the Sigil would not have won us the game. So we at least feel good about that decision. So overall, really interesting game. Felt like I learned a few things about the Viserai matchup here, about playing Aurora in general specifically, and how to play Sigil of Suffering effectively, but also how to prioritize arsenaling those. Arc Lightnings, doing the math a little better. I know I went to pitch the Arc Lightnings, which let us keep that Channel Lightning Valley around just a little bit longer, and the fact that we even had that contingency plan. We weren't expecting that Vis was going to play Sigil of Suffering. We thought we would just pitch Gone in a Flash to attack with Starfall. But by pitching the Arc Lightning instead of playing it, we gave ourselves that option, and that feels really good. So I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you learned something. I know this was a long video for being a 7-turn aggro mirror, but if you did, be sure to lightning press that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. I have a Blue Sky, I have a Discord, I have a Patreon. Links to those socials are in the video description below. Catch me back here next time for more daily FaB gameplay, and until then, take care.